You hate ads? I hate ads. You know what I like? Patreon.com/inkdependence keeps this channel ad-free. Hello folks, welcome to Inkdependence. I'm Mike, and today we're talking about Franklin-Christoph. This is one of the pen models that I love from Franklin-Christoph, and somehow I just never got around to reviewing it. I don't know how that happened, so mea culpa to everyone out there. This is the 4D Panther, and as you can see, I have three of them here, and they are all a bit different. So we'll start from the beginning and sort of, show you how this pen model has evolved over time. So this one is actually a real full-on prototype for the Model 4D Panther. As far as I know, this was given to me for Christmas by my wife Audrey ages and ages ago. Full disclosure, my wife Audrey works at Franklin-Christoph. She is their nib specialist. If you've got a nib from Franklin-Christoph, it likely has her name on the card because she's been doing this for quite a while. But not when I got this. This was just when we were fans, and it doesn't have a whole lot in common, I guess, with the current ones, except for it has a long cap with a relatively shorter body, and I don't know, it's got some bands. But this one is a smoke material here in the acrylic, and then it has three bands in orange and white. Scott Franklin went to Tennessee, as well as Audrey and I did for one of our graduate schools, and so we all have that kind of thing in common. And also I just love orange, and so that kind of ended up being perfect for me. Then you can see in here it has a relatively uniform section. It might have a little bit of a taper, but it is very gradual. Big old block threads up here, and that sort of thing. So this one just isn't what they look like anymore, including the clip. I mean, that is an old-timey Franklin-Christoph clip right there with the four diamonds. Then there's this one, which I picked up a few years back at I want to say the Philly Pen Show, but I won't swear to it. It was several years ago. And this is more modern. You can see that it definitely has a more Franklin-Christoph aesthetic with a little bit of color here, but then an overall black look. Scott Franklin really likes the black on black, and I get it. And with the chrome, it looks very nice. On this one, you can see here we have the finial is engraved with the Franklin-Christoph logo and the four diamonds. The modern clip they have here has four diamonds and also has this bevel here. It's kind of all one piece, which is a very nice clip upgrade. You can see on this one that we have a sort of a stamped clip, and it's sort of just curled in at the edges, but the modern clip is one solid piece with some little screws that hold it onto a post, and then that is screwed on here as well. So I think it's just kind of a little bit extra. I really like the clips that they've started using. These are really nice clips here. Then you have a single band here. This one has got a cracked turquoise look. Then you have Franklin-Christoph here around the edge of the band with the 40 for the model. In fact, all the Franklin-Christoph models, I believe, have this engraving, and you'll be able to figure out what number you have or what model you're using because it'll be on there. Sometimes it might be a little bit difficult to see, but on this black with the white text, it's much easier. Then opening it up, you'll see we have a more like a bit of a concave section here. So you can see it has just a little bit of a saddle, which gives you a nice place to put your fingers and a good distance away from the page to write with this number 6 nib that these come with. Again, block threads, but a bit different than the older one there. And then the newest one I have is this one, which is just a really bright color scheme, and I kind of love it. This is one that I bought at one of the online pen shows, I want to say last year. So this is definitely the newest one. You can see it does have some differences from even just this black and turquoise that we looked at. For one, the cap band here, this separate band, is in a totally different place, and I really like where he's put it up here with the sort of translucent band here and here, so you can see the nib through the top. I had to get this one because it reminds me of one of my favorite superheroes, Captain Marvel, with the red, yellow, and blue. Very Captain Marvel-y color scheme. I've heard other folks say that it also is kind of like a Wonder Woman color scheme, and yeah, totally just kind of the other way around, I want to say. But I'm not as big a DC fan, frankly. I'm just kind of a Marvel fanboy. So on this one, you can see the cap band is moved up here, and that's it's kind of actually a big design change in this pen. When they make these pens, and you can see it on this one, they have to basically stack these things, and then they screw them together. They are bonded inside the glue, and then they are then returned. So this is totally smooth. Like you can't feel a break here. You can get really close. You can see it's just I can't even feel it with running my fingernail up and down it. It's very, very well manufactured, but this does add time, expense to the process, and so these are a little bit more expensive than some of the other Franklin-Christoph models. You can see it also has a bit of a taper here. In fact, all of them do. I think the red one is a little bit more pronounced, but that could just be because it's red. Sometimes that's difficult to see on black, but I do think there is the same kind of taper. And then opening it up, you have a very similar section, but this one is a bit more translucent. You can definitely see it still has that concave thing going on here. This little saddle for your pens, or for your pens, your hand pens, your fingers to rest in, and I think it's really a very comfortable pen to write with and to use. I'm just a really big fan of this one. Then opening up the barrel, you can see this is a cartridge or converter pen. You could also eyedropper this, although I just kind of never do. These are opaque, and so you never know how much ink you have. I don't love an eyedropper pen most of the time, so I just use the converter. I think the converter's almost always the way to go for me. Then the other thing about this pen is that when it has this really long cap and this nice taper here, it's just kind of begging to be posted. And this is a pen that I write with, posted a fair amount. It is still pretty long once you post it. It's not as compact as, say, a Model 2 or something like that, where the cap posts super deeply and it doesn't really make the pen any longer. This one does get a little bit longer, and it could be a little bit back heavy depending on how big your hands are. If my hands were smaller, I can imagine this being much more back heavy than it is, but as my hands go, I think this is totally fine. All right, so let's look at it next to a bunch of other pens, do a little writing sample, although there are a ton of nibs available for this. Look at some stats, all that jazz. Hold on just a sec. Okay, so here we have an arrangement of Franklin-Christoph pens, just to sort of give you a feel of where this one fits in the group. This is the Model 2, the Model 3, the 19, the 20, the 31, the 46, the Panther 40 that we're talking about today, and then the Model 50, the grandest, just a big old desk pen, way out of the range for the rest of these. But you can see the Model 40 does fit in very nicely with their size profile here. There is also another Franklin-Christoph pen that is related to the 40, and that's this one. This is the modified 40, and Franklin-Christoph has started doing a set of pens that are a modified version of some models. So we have the Model 3 here, and there's also a modified Model 3, which doesn't have a clip or a finial. It doesn't have the little disc inset in the top like this one here does. It's just a little bit of a simpler profile. This is the same kind of thing, but for the Model 40, and I had to borrow this from Franklin-Christoph because it's one that I didn't have yet. But looking at this, I mean, I might have to buy this one from them because holy smokes, this is good looking. This is the modified 40. I don't know who made the blank for this, but it is absolutely gorgeous. It is the same as the regular Model 40, except it does not have the band in the middle here. It doesn't have a finial that unscrews, and you can't get it clipped. So it's a simpler version of this pen, but still has the block threads here, which are very comfortable. Still has this very nice section that I think is very comfortable to hold, and it still does post really well. And I think it actually might post a little bit better because you don't have the added weight in the top of an extra piece and also the clip and all that jazz. So it just kind of fits really nicely in your hand. I don't have a nib in this one, but you know what a nib looks like in these pens. It's going to look the same. So really nice, and man, this one is especially gorgeous. I think that the modified 40 is a really good looking pen to use for these swirly materials, because if you use one of these with a whole bunch of swirls, you could run into a case where it just doesn't match up well, because if you think of all the pieces that have to go together, you have a finial up here that unscrews and has to be a separate piece. Then you have this piece of the cap, you have some band, you have this piece of the cap, and then you have the barrel of the pen, and that's a lot of things to match up with a swirly acrylic. This one with this smoke doesn't really matter because the smoke is meant to be a little bit chaotic, but if you had something like this and you tried to match these swirls up, it might be a little bit weird if it was being broken up over and over again by bands and all that jazz. But with this one, you can see another very swirly kind of acrylic going on here, and it feels great and looks good. So Model 40 modified, a little less expensive, a little less complicated, but really cool. Also less common. You don't see these a lot, and it's not on the website. So you'll see them at pen shows sometimes and in some special editions and that sort of thing. All right, so there's a bunch of Franklin-Christoph pens. Let me go ahead and take the caps off of these real quick so you can see what that looks like. Okay, so here we have all of these with their caps off. I have sort of lined them up because these don't have nibs in them currently, but I have lined them up to where they would have nibs, and you can see that this is just sort of a very normal size for the Franklin-Christoph. So if you have a Franklin-Christoph, the Panther 40 is going to fall right in that same length range once you have it uncapped. Very normal sort of range for a pen, I think. Okay, let's add some more pens to this range. This here is the Schoen design full-size fountain pen. This is the Engineered Plastics Ultem one, which I really like a lot. We have here a Gravitas Delrin pen. I don't actually know what the size of this is. I think it's the Century size, perhaps. Then we've got a Lamy All-Star right here in that gloss red. We have a Sailor King of Pen Pro Gear. Then a Pilot Custom 823. A regular Pro Gear from Sailor there. The TWSBI Eco. Let's put this over here. And then this is an Opus 88 Coloro. And over here, let's add another black pen. This is the Aurora 88 fountain pen. There you go. So this is a wide range of pens of different sizes and all that sort of thing. What else? We got an Esterbrook Esty here. This is a Pilot Prera. This over here with the other black pens and that sort of thing. So you can see there's quite a range of pens there, and I think the Panther 40 fits really nicely within this range. It's a little bit longer than some, a little bit shorter than others, but you know, pretty middling in terms of size. Definitely, I think one that's worth picking up. Okay, so here we have all the stats of this pen. Materials, various plastics, nibs, all the number 6 Jowo nibs fit in here, and Franklin-Christoph has a massive range of those, everything from needle points up to a 1.9 millimeter music stub, which is just a snow shovel of a nib, and everything in between, italics, stubs, the SIG nib, which my wife Audrey grinds. Just a zillion things will fit in this pen, and you can buy them there at Franklin-Christoph. The filling system, cartridge converter, or eyedropper. I forgot to finish writing eyedropper. Here we go. Or eyedropper. The weights, about 26 grams capped up, or 14 grams capped, and that is with a nib and also ink in there. Uncapped, you're going to have about a little under 5 inches. Capped, about 5.4-ish, 5.5, and posted about 6.5 inches, which is fairly long, but definitely manageable. Then here for diameters, a really good range for me. I like for my section diameters to be between like 11 or 12, something like that. Less than 10, and it starts getting real small for my big old hands, but this is a very comfortable size, I think. And then the price, $225 for the normal variety of this, and then the modified one comes in at $175-ish, which is, at least I'm pretty sure it's $175, which is a significant reduction, but also remember, it doesn't have all of this stuff going on up here. It just has a one-piece cap instead of all this extra work of finial and clip and banding and all that jazz. So simpler pen, less cost on the modified version. So a good place to get this shape if you don't want to have the added expense. This pen and I believe the 19 kind of live at that higher price point because of all the extra banding that goes in and the extra work that entails. So you know, they do look great, but they also will add a little bit extra to the cost. All right, I'll do a little bit of a writing sample here, although honestly, this pen could use just basically any nib you want to put in there in the Jowo 6 range. And that's this nib here with a big broad Jowo number 6. This one happens to be from Anderson Pens. I think I took this actually out of this one, which was a special edition for Anderson Pens. I just kind of switched it in here because I wanted a big broad nib for this ink, which is a diamine ink that has shimmer and sheen and all of that jazz going on in it. And you can see that this pen writes super nicely. And I just really like the way that it fits in my hand and that it writes. There you go. These are the Panther 40s that I have. I'm surprised I only have 3 in some ways, but also each of these, I think, really called to me at the time that I got it. And this one was a gift from my wife, and so it's kind of like special in a bunch of ways. So this is one of my favorites. I hope that you've learned a little bit of something here. Man, that looks good with these. And so hope you learned a little little bit of something here. If you have questions about the Panther 40, hit me up below or send an email to Franklin-Christoph. Their customer service, I'm sure, can help you out. But really cool pen, not your usual pen model. It's got these long caps, which I think is really interesting, and just really worth checking out. So there you go. That's the Panther 40. Thanks very much for watching. Hey, check out this graph up here. A bunch of people still aren't subscribed, and if you're at this point in the video, you liked this, and you should subscribe. So let's hit that subscribe button, get that to 100% subscribers. That would be awesome. And, I'll see you in another video soon. Peace out.